Espionage news. Where to begin? Oh, at the beginning. Since I last wrote, the following things of note happened in the espionage realm, that is obvious. There was a German coup plot thwarted, the RCMP had been found to be potentially compromised by the CCP, Brittany Griner had been released in a prisoner exchange, and a Polish police chief had received an exploding gift from the Ukrainian embassy. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. Regarding the German coup plot. Remember QAnon? The German version of them, let's call them GQAnon, was amassing weaponry and ammunition. The German intelligence had already known of their plan for some time, however. At least 25 individuals were arrested in Germany, Romania, and Italy, but the network is said to be upwards of 10,000 individuals. There's a lot of details here worth to note down. The most prominent one is that they were being backed by Russia. I'm not surprised. Closer to home in Canada, the RCMP was reported to have had bought and installed radio and dispatch equipment produced by a manufacturer with ties to the CCP. In a time where there are CCP police stations sprinkled all over the world, I wonder what use the CCP would have had for RCMP dispatch broadcasts. I guess we'll never know. Anyhow, at the Berklee College of Music in Boston, it was reported a student was caught stalking and harassing another student for putting up pro-democracy flyers, both of which are of Chinese descent. Brittany Griner has come home. She was detained the day before Russia invaded Ukraine. She was released in exchange for a notorious arms dealer that Nick Cage gets hard for. Anyhow, the week before the exchange, Paul Whelan, an other American detainee in Russia, was sent to hospital and prior to that was missing. Russian intelligence knows very well the divide in America and the West. They created it. So they know how to tear public opinion in two. I'm glad Brittany is home, but her and Paul were always pawns. They both represented and were a symbol of the two supposed warring factions in the West. Paul, a Caucasian American male veteran, supposedly Republican, and Brittany, a black non-binary lesbian, obviously Democrat. Russia pinned the two against each other. Only one was able to be sent home. The Kremlin made that clear. Think about that. How would you feel if your person was left behind? And off to the races the espionage artists went, when she got back. As well as prior. Also, the choice was made more complicated and hurtful while Paul was missing than in hospital. It was made to seem he was in real peril. I assume he was. That's the disgraceful thing about it. The Kremlin is not only tearing apart families, mine included, with their propaganda. They're using living and breathing people as puppets in their sick game. Brittany was sent to a penal colony, and for appearance sake, I'm sure Paul was put in mortal danger to end up in hospital. It sickens me. Finally, and perhaps the most volatile, General Jaroslaw Szymczyk, Zimszyk, the highest-ranking police officer in Poland, received a gift from a Ukrainian embassy. It was suggested to be a gift from the Ukrainians. It was a grenade launcher that was supposed to be empty. Guess what? It blew a hole in the ceiling and floor in the room Jaroslaw was in at the time. He suffered minor injuries. But, holy shit. There is more to come of this nature. One final note, before I begin. Animal eyes have been mailed to several Ukrainian embassies across Europe. No one was hurt. It was just gross. Gender relations in regards to the trans community. Did you get a churning feeling in the ball of your stomach too when you read that? Are you anticipating me saying something horrible? Perhaps I am, to some hearts and minds. Alrighty, disclaimer alert. I am fully supportive of people who wish to undergo procedures to change their sex. I empathize with people who feel one way on the inside and are saddened because their outsides do not match. It's a sad and scary situation to be in. I proudly wear shirts with the LGBTQ flag. All the time. Sometimes on a daily basis. Anything that could be done to give everyone the respect they deserve should be done. With that out of the way, I'll begin. Donald Trump, where to begin? I guess it was a matter of time that I mention him. I'm sort of torn in my opinion of him. I'm not sure if he's a Russian agent or just another idiot who watched too much of the ill-conceived conspiracy theories in the 90s. Perhaps he spent too much time with Oliver Stone, I'm not sure. What I am certain of though, is he is a loud personality keeping the general public from having a needed conversation. What is a Trumpian speech? Have you heard someone complain of that guy in your network of friends or acquaintances who go on Trumpian rants? What is a Trumpian rant? It used to be anytime anyone would criticize China. Now it's mainstream to know the CCP is probably up to no good. What else? When one would say BLM bad? I agree with him on that. Does that make me Trumpian? But I detest Trump. Does that make me even more Trumpian? I'm not sure what the rules are. Actually I do, I'm just building up to a finer point. This section regards transgender people. Trump has an affinity in ridiculing them, however, only while standing up for women's rights. The media always skips that part. Of course I abhor hateful obscenities toward anyone, but I must agree with him, although I hate it. Women's rights would be undermined if the trans community were to get their way in certain areas. One area in particular is sports. I'm not here to argue what to do, although I think the issue is being resolved. I'm here to show that in the case of Donald Trump, I'm going to assume he is an espionage artist. His primary task is not pin one group against the other. It's to keep important conversations that need to be had, suppressed. If Donald Trump wasn't all gung-ho on China in 2018, as well as being a disgusting individual, perhaps we would have caught on faster in regards to the CCP. What I mean is, because Donald was China, the general public and politicians particularly on the left wing, although they would agree, they were reluctant to do so and be viewed as Trumpian. Do you see where I'm going with this? The general pattern with these espionage artists is that they bring up very important issues in one hand, but with the other they do or say horrible things. Yes, having a transgender woman, who only identifies as a woman, but physiologically still has prominently masculine traits is an issue, in regards to competitive sports. Saying that is fine, but ridiculing their worldview and sexual anatomy is never fine, especially at a political rally. That's what the espionage artists do in all controversial realms. They hijack the conversation. May I just add that a joke is a joke. Before Dave Chappelle made fun of the way transgender people used the restroom, he made the same joke about women. That's comedy. However, comedians very rarely have the deep understanding of these complexities. However, I'm sure Dave used that hack joke as a point. Why is this bad, and not that? However, that doesn't excuse someone running for president to make such a joke at their rallies. I'm not sure Trump was trying to make a point, he was trying to deepen the divide. I hope this section cleared a bit up. One last thing on Trumpian speeches or rhetoric. It's not only the content that makes a Trumpian speech. It's the demographic profile of the individual, perhaps that's the most important aspect. Perhaps I'm wrong, but the woke rarely accuse old black men of Trumpian speeches, or young black men for that matter. Perhaps it's easy to assume that black conservatives, young or old, do not exist. You'd be very mistaken. What the woke do is ignore them. Even if these prominent authors and media personalities try desperately to get in contact with them. The woke dig their head in the sand, or call these black conservatives multiracial white people. Dujin is particularly proud of that one, I'm certain. Still makes my skin crawl. Anyhow, what usually makes a Trumpian speech is, when an old white man goes on a rant against the woke mob mentality. This gentleman doesn't have to be saying anything hateful at all to be called Trumpian. All they need to do is question the finer points and ideology of the woke theocracy. Of course, the woke want to be questioned, because remember, they're not trying to win, they're trying to be fought. Especially by old white men. They want to use the darkest parts of Western history like a shoe pressing on the faces of the youth, who for the love of God never want to repeat what happened hundreds of years ago, of course. Old white men are the symbol for that history. The woke are making sure of that. Also, remember the woke and MAGA are a Russian plot. What I laid out here in this section, is just another way to distract from the fact, that autocrats want to wreak havoc. They need the West out of the way first. Next time I'll explain the culture war regarding socioeconomics.